to read them to me. You'll be able to see them.
Okay.
So you stand here. I love it. Right? And so, so it's a juxtaposition to recognize the racism that continues to be systemic in our police force, regardless of whether our police are white or black, and the way that that shows up primarily in so many ways, but primarily with black men, how heartbreaking and unacceptable it is, and we should be appalled, angry, and unwilling to stand for it. And the way that we do that is by knowing that that's not the truth. That's not the truth of humanity. That's not the truth of who we are and how we expect love to show up. And to remind ourselves of that, we sing "It's a Wonderful World." Because we remember that there is love being made manifest, and that what we focus on grows. So it's our spiritual double vision. It is our human ability to see what needs to be corrected, and it is our spiritual vision that holds to the truth of what we envision reality to look like. Do you see? It's not Pollyannish. It's not, oh, I'm not going to look at it. It's not, oh, it's really not that bad. It's, no, this. Do you see? That's our spiritual work. No is a powerful statement. No, this is not the spiritual truth. No, this is not acceptable. No, this is not how people behave who recognize that we're part of one human family. No, this is not okay. This. It is actually a beautiful world. We all are here to express and experience life in its beauty and its magnificence. And we're all a part of making that happen. We're going to focus on that and focus on that and focus on that. No, this. No, this. Do you see? That's the work. That's the spiritual work. Is it tiring? Well, wasn't it tiring for us to become conscious? Wasn't it tiring for us to say, wait, I'm not going to think that false thought. Wait, I'm not going to diss myself. Wait, I'm not going to be down on myself. Wait, no, it's the spiritual truth is right? And it's tiring and it's exhausting. But it is the way that we rewrite the subconscious and synaptic patterns in our brain and the subconscious patterns that we have in our consciousness. And so by doing this on the personal level, we know how to do this on the collective level. We're doing exactly the same thing. Do you see? No, that is not an acceptable way to think of another human being. This, no to that, this, no to that, this. Is it exhausting? Yes. And those who have been suffering under it are even more exhausted, and they need our help to rewrite the patterns in the collective consciousness that keep this alive. And every time we say a spiritual no and a spiritual yes, we are contributing to rewriting the unconscious biases and patterns in the psyche of our nation and humanity. Every time. That's the work. That's why we're called light bearers. That's why we're about not only transforming our own lives, but humanity's life as a whole. So Patty's going to read us our questions because I want to tell you that your treatments for my vision is working. It's getting better, but we also had an extraordinary breakthrough with my eye doctor the other day, which someday will be part of my talk, I'm sure, but not today. So keep it up. Thank you so much. I'm really appreciative, but I can't read that. So Patty's going to read us our questions. So Patty, Reverend Patty, please go ahead.
Yeah, Yes, we have them in categories.
Okay, great.
Why is SOM, Science of Mind, called Science of Mind?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, Science of Mind is called Science of Mind because we are seeking to understand the nature of reality and consciousness. When New Thought was being written in the mid 1800s to the early 1900s, consciousness was not as well understood of a term. It was primarily brought to us from the Eastern traditions, and they really only began to have an impact in the United States in the late 1800s. And so out of the other side of the process, which is called mental science, which emerged out of the work of psychology and hypnotism, which revealed the idea, this recognition that we have a conscious portion of our mind and a subconscious portion. And the illumination that so much of what's going on in our lives is actually governed by the subconscious mind, right? That was the only term they had. And a recognition that that subconscious mind is actually outpicturing in our life. It actually governs and controls a whole boatload of stuff that's going on, and we can give it direction. All of that has been revealed, and interestingly enough, in a conversation yesterday, it was shared, I'll have to go explore this now, that Nobel Prizes were just given out to people in the sciences whose studies have shown that thought creates reality. Yes. So we're going to go look that up. I'm going to learn more about it, right? So that's the mind part. And the science part is the fact that when we understand the nature of reality and we understand how this works, it should be repeatable, it should be demonstratable, it should be available to every person, no matter what. Right? That's what science is. Science is not about who's doing the experiment. It's not about where the experiment is being done. Right? And so it's based on universal principles. And so when we understand the principles of the nature of reality and what that really means, we can engage with it. Today, we might actually I prefer to think of it as the science of consciousness, because it's a much larger understanding, and there's so much work now being done to expand our understanding of consciousness. And that's actually what's being pointed at. But of course, these things were written when mind was being revealed. This idea that we have a conscious and this subjective subconscious mind was a huge breakthrough, especially in healing. In healing, and then in the way in which that shapes our lives. So, science of mind, science of consciousness.
Perfect. Where is God? Allness, and the difference between mind, man's, and God.
Well, there isn't one. Where is God? Well, we have to decide what we mean by that word. And you know that in the first talk in January, I highly invite you to take a look at it. I invite you to release the word God, because it tends to imply that it's something that you can point at that has shape and definition. So simply the question, where is God, implies that there is somewhere where that couldn't be, or where that isn't. The question itself implies duality and a belief that there is something that is outside of this thing that we have called God. In the science of mind, we understand that this thing we call God is a shorthand for the infinite reality. Well, the infinite reality includes both that which is spiritual and that which is material. The infinite reality includes both the intangible and the tangible. And we want to say that God is just in the spiritual realm, the intangible realm, and, well, yeah, we're growing out of that. We're evolving our consciousness thanks in a large part to New Thought and Metaphysics, to the mystical traditions, but also to science evolving into quantum physics, teaching us that there is no outside. So where is this one infinite reality? The best quote, right, it's been attributed to a lot of different people. God is a center. God is a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. So there is no difference between our mind and the mind of the one infinite reality. It's all in how we use it and how much of that we know and how much of that we accept. But I do invite you to spend a month in your meditation practice exploring this notion that God is a circle whose center is everywhere, and whose circumference is nowhere. Just, you'll blow your mind right out of your mind and you will blow it right into consciousness.
Blowing your mind for sure. What is the best advice for a CSLDallas first-timer?
Keep coming back. Right? Right? Yes. Yes. The deal is you can learn all of this now everywhere. You can read books, you know, there's a million of them out there. You can go out on YouTube, you can go out on TikTok, you can hear about manifestation from 25-year-olds, 22-year-olds who are doing it, right? You can read the greats, you can be inspired by all kinds of the classic writers. You can get all of the information you need. And how many of us have read a book that has a practice in it or an exercise? Hey, now stop, close your eyes, think about this thing, and then we read right over it, we go, yeah, that's good, and then we keep reading. Right? Right. So the thing about being in spiritual community, whether you're online with us or here on campus, the thing about spiritual community is that you have the time to practice and apply. That's what you get by being part of a spiritual community, and that takes time. Just like you're going to learn anything, whether you're going to learn the piano, or you're going to learn how to play golf, or you're going to learn how to be a better speaker, or you're going to learn how to build a business plan, and right, all of these things take time, and you practice, and you practice, and you practice. And that's what we're in spiritual community for. That's the best advice I can give you. And so get involved, be part of a small group. Get involved, volunteer. Get involved, be in a class. Get involved, keep coming to the live streams and the workshops and the whatever it is, and the experiences and the retreats. Every single one of them gives you a different opportunity to go deeper, to talk about it, and to apply it and practice it. And I promise you, if you talk to people who've been around here for a while, in 2 years, your life will have changed. In 5 years, your life will be unrecognizable. It'll be so much more amazing. And in 20 years, you are living out of an entirely different place. And the light that you are is shining so brightly that you're changing the world. My advice, keep coming back.
Praise and praise. So, how do you view Jesus Christ? What is his role? What things serve you when you pray? Believe that you have them, and you shall receive them. How does science of mind teach? Whatsoever things you desire, believe that you should receive them. A combined question.
Well, science of mind comes out of a Judeo-Christian culture, right? And our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, was raised in a Christian home and was, like most people at that time, if there was a primary religion, it was, in the New England area, it was Protestant Christianity. And so in Protestant Christianity, you read the Bible. Catholics don't. Protestant Christianity, you do. And so that was what he was raised in, and what most of New Thought and metaphysics comes in mental science comes out of. So where do you go for some inspiration? But you draw from that sort of ubiquitous source of our Western culture, which is those biblical teachings. And so the science of mind, Ernest Holmes will say, the science of mind is 50% based on the teachings of Jesus and 50% based on Hinduism. The law of cause and effect is taught by Sri Aurobindo in his book, The Life Divine. So, and he's very clear, because there's a big controversy, are we Christian or not? Sometimes he says yes, and sometimes he says no, and right. And always when Ernest Holmes says yes, we are Christian, it is because he says we follow the teachings of Jesus, not the teachings about him. So, less interested in the virgin birth and the resurrection, although lots of wonderful spiritual metaphor there. Much more interested in what he is reported to have said. And those teachings that come out of the parables and the healings, those teachings that come out of the parables and the healings specifically, which seem the most coherent representations of a liberation theology. Not the things that were put into his mouth that he probably would never have said. And so we think of the teachings of Jesus as the sort of Western distillation of the mystery schools and the mystical understanding of oneness and the fact that we contribute and co-create our own reality. And if you read those parables and you read the teachings, again, not what was put into his mouth, but the core teachings, you'll see that it is this body of spiritual, mystical work. And so there's a sense that here was a person who so practiced oneness that his life exemplified it. And that he taught from that place of oneness. So people think of him as the great example, the great way shower, the first perfect human being, the one who really understood that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that these teachings, as you believe, so it be done unto you, as you expect to receive, so you receive, right? These are core teachings of these universal principles, couched in terminology and stories that were available and accessible, that the people who were listening, that made it available and accessible to the people who were listening, right? And we take those and try to strip off the cultural trappings and the religious trappings of duality, which there aren't any in Jesus' teachings. We can strip off all of that. We come to those core teachings, which are the thread that runs through not only the mystical traditions of the West, but also of the East.
What do practitioners do, and why should I use them?
What a great question. Okay, you know how when a friend comes to you and says, oh my God, I'm all anxious about this, and they're all upset, and they're like, and you're listening to it and go, well, if you just did X, Y, and Z, you'd be fine, right? You know how that works, right? And then you're all stunned when you go to a friend and you're all in it and in it and in it, and they can like say, but wait, maybe you should see it differently. What if you looked at it like this, right? Because they're not engaged in what's going on in here. Just as when a friend comes to you all upset and you can actually see the truth and see what's really going on, you're not inside their trauma, drama, or upset, or anxiety, or whatever. Or they're like, I want to build this business and I'm a little afraid and I don't know, right? And you're like, why should you be afraid? I know how good you are at what you're doing. Okay, a practitioner is doing that with you at a spiritual level. Does that make sense to you? A practitioner is knowing your truth because they're not inside your disbelief. They're not inside your limited thinking. So a practitioner is working from that deep place of consciousness, knowing what's the truth, being able to see that in and for and about you when you are like stuck in the muck. Or when you are looking for that rocket fuel to move you forward. So a practitioner is also a spiritual coach. So first of all, you can use them for spiritual mind treatment, which is our way of shifting consciousness, rewriting the synaptic patterns in our brain, creating new subconscious patterns, and actually demonstrating something that is the result of knowing spiritual truth. Practitioners will help you discover where's the leverage point for that work to be done. Sometimes it's not where you think it is. And other times it's, no, we're not going to be afraid of this surgery. We're going to know this surgery is going to be perfect. No, we're going to absolutely know that 5 years from now, this business is going to be remarkable, right? And so they're knowing that for you. They do spiritual mind treatment with you. And then if you want to use them as a spiritual coach, which I highly recommend, right, what you get is somebody who you can go to on a regular basis. You do pay them like you would a therapist or any other executive coach or a personal trainer, only this is a spiritual trainer. You want to take your consciousness to the spiritual gym? Yeah, go to a practitioner. That's what they do. And then they coach you and they listen and then they help you know, oh, why don't you try this? Use this spiritual practice. Have you thought about this way of framing it? What's the spiritual truth can be applied here? Right? And you get that one-on-one coaching, which can't really be done in a classroom. The classroom provides information, right? You have groups of people you're working with, but that practitioner is going to do that one-on-one work. The last thing I'll say is when I feel like I'm very much, what shall we say? I am anxious about something, or I am a little bit overwhelmed by something that I want to have created and happen. It doesn't always have to be a healing. Sometimes it's really like, what's next for CSLDallas? And I'm a little overwhelmed, and it feels like there's a lot of parts and pieces, and because we have our part, right? We have to move, and we have to do things, and so then I go to a practitioner. Patty, come over here. Come over here. So then I go to a practitioner, and I say, this is the end result I want. You do the treatment, and I'm going to do what's needed in the world. Because I know she's got it. I know she's doing the spiritual work, and she's holding the end result for me. And therefore, I can, well, that door closed. Nope, she's got it. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So I have absolutely trusted that somebody's doing the spiritual work while I'm then maneuvering, listening to the guidance, right? Because that's the result of this spiritual work. Seeing the open doors, not being afraid when the doors close. So when it's a longer term thing, right? This is why you can then you can bring your practitioner in as a consultant on your business. I've done this for many people for a year, doing this work, holding consciousness for shifts and changes and growths and things like that, because I know she's got it. I don't have to be so worried about, I was afraid. Did I just mess up my expectation? I'm not sure what to do. No, she's got it. She's got it. Do you see? That's one of the most remarkable ways to use a practitioner. Thank you, Patty.
Yes.
And the practitioners are amazing at it.
And we have practitioners that are wanting to pray with you and to know your truth. And they are in the ministry of prayer in Pankey Hall.
Yes.
Is there a law of karma associated with science of mind?
Well, that is a great question. It always comes back to the definitions of karma. What do we understand karma to mean? So, in its purest form, the law of cause and effect is simply the English translation of the law of karma. In its purest form. And that means that every action, every cause has an effect. Simple as that. The effect is automatic. It is non-negotiable. If you put water in the refrigerator, it'll get cold. If you put it in the freezer, it'll freeze. Law of cause and effect. Do you want it ice or do you just want it cold? If you make a mistake and you want ice, but you put it in the refrigerator, oops, you don't get the result you want. Not because you did it, not because you're bad or it's wrong. It's the law of cause and effect. Karma in its purest form comes out of Hinduism. It was then taken up with Buddhism, because if you may recall, Christianity is a reform of Judaism. Buddhism is the same. It was intended to be a reform of Hinduism. And the way that began to be taken up is this wheel of life, this wheel of karma that is so inexorable that you must experience every effect of every cause you've ever put into place. So that requires lifetimes of feeling those effects, and the goal is to live a karma-less life, because you're not setting any new causes in motion that you then have to experience the effect of. Well, that would be impossible because you wouldn't be able to get a bed. Really. Right? If you get out of bed a little bit late, that's a cause. Now, that's the cause of being a little hurried in the morning. Do you see? It's virtually impossible to have a karma-less, a cause-less life. So, in metaphysics, we go back in the science of mind to the purest understanding of the law of cause and effect, which is that the law of cause and effect is in motion until or unless you set a new cause in motion. Right? And so if you set a new cause in motion, you can counteract, or you can interrupt, or you can shift the direction of that particular thing that's playing out. If you never do that, it will play out. But we can continually set new causes in motion. And the science of mind does not seek to live a causeless life. You can actually not live a causeless life. We're always causing things, which means that we always are creating things. The question is only, are we causing things that we enjoy, things that make a difference, things that are loving and peaceful, things that change things that allow us to say no, right? Are we setting new causes in motion and not believing that, well, there's nothing I can do. This will never change. It'll always be that way. Right? That is the sort of despairing side of the law of karma. And so that's one of the reasons why we don't use that term. That's a more popularized understanding. And so that's directly what Ernest Holmes pulled out of the work of Sri Aurobindo. He wrote in 1942 a book called The Life Divine. It's about this big. And if you love reading The Science of Mind, go read that, because it's like reading The Science of Mind. I mean, it's brilliant work. And he's also doing the same thing. He's trying to take away all the superstitious, religious trappings, the names of the gods, and all the things that we are supposed to believe in, and trying to reveal those fundamental truths, which is, of course, what the science of mind is seeking to do.
Could you repeat the title of that wonderful book again?
It's Sri Aurobindo, and the book is called The Life Divine. Be prepared. It's big, and it's very, concentrated, and it's... But if you love that stuff, it's great. Weird people like me.
Yes.
All right, one more?
Oh, one more.
Two
and
more,
it's a
maybe?
theme. Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go quick.
Yes, okay. How do I keep from digging up the seeds I plant with negative thoughts? How can I quiet my mind when it starts up with that same old story?
I love that. Well, have you ever trained a puppy? What does it take? Love and discipline, right? Love and discipline. Your brain is no different. How do you do it? By doing it. By deciding that the essence of you, the you that you are, is in fact in charge. And you say, no, stop it. Go out to YouTube, go look up Bob Newhart and his skit called Stop It. Okay? You will laugh and you will go, oh. Really, this is not rocket science. And I do not agree with this idea that we have a monkey mind that can't be controlled. That is nonsense, and it's victim thinking. You are not your brain, you're not your thoughts, you're not all of those things. You are the one who is actually in charge. Now, it requires consciousness, being awake to it, paying attention to it, noticing that it's happening, and then saying, no, stop it. My plant is growing, it's having all that I need, but I don't know what, stop it. I will tell you, I used to have massive dreams. I was, in my childhood, in my young adult, in my teens and in my young adult life. My nightmare was to be chased through convoluted buildings and inside and out of homes and always dark and always, and running for my life with a large black shape behind me that was chasing me, and I could never get away. And I was learning this. And, I complained about it for the first 4 years. And I didn't want to do it. And it was always somebody else's fault. And I just can't do it. My brain, I just obsess about everything. And my mentor would say, stop it. Just tell your brain, stop it. With love, not berating yourself, why can't I do it? Just stop it. Right? Just like you say to a puppy, I love you. No. I will never forget having this massive dream, chase, this big, giant, looming black thing ready to get me. And I whirled around in my dream and I said, no, you have no spiritual reality. Go back to where you came from. I've never had that dream since. That's what it means to have spiritual discipline. We get so involved in accepting everything that we forget that we actually have to have the spiritual discipline of what, and this is the only thing we can ever control, right? We have realized that. Can't control you or you or you or you. It's so annoying. If you would just do what I tell you, it'd be fine, right? The only thing we can control is what's up here, but that's our job, right here. So stop saying you can't do it. Stop saying you don't know how to control your mind. Stop saying that your brain runs away from you. Stop affirming that. Start affirming. The I that I am knows how to do this. The I that I am can do this. The I that I am is in charge. And then do it or stop it.
Now.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, last one.
The last one is from my heart. How do I join a home study group?
Oh, I love that. That's great. So we have, well, I just started 3 sentences all at once. Stop it. Organize them. We have small groups Reverend Patty's in charge. We have circles that are affinity groups. We have sanghas, which are groups, spiritual support groups, small, that do spiritual mind treatment for each other and really provide that intimate connection and support. And we have home study groups. Some of them overlap, right? And a home study group is an opportunity to go deeper with a group of people. I provide a monthly study guide on our topic. And the home study groups will take those on, meet once a month. Usually these groups meet once a month, sometimes twice a month. Now, 3 times a year, we're starting this year with having a third, we have a community-wide spiritual deepening program. So we're starting in March with our annual Step Out in Faith program. And basically, we want everybody to be in a home study group. It's for 5 weeks. The program is for 6 weeks, so for 5 weeks in between, you get together either in somebody's home or online, and you study the workbook that Patty and I write. The only way you can get the workbook is to be in a home study group. A lot of our home study groups were started in previous programs. Right? So we have Step Out in Faith in the spring. We're going to be starting Journey into Awakening in the summer, and then we have our Adventures in Spirit in the fall. Each one of them creates new home study groups. Those home study groups you sign up for. You sign up to be a host, which means you are not a facilitator. You're basically creating a space, either in your home or online, where you and 8 to 10 others can get together. And in these programs, you meet every week. And you study the workbook together and you go deeper, right? And then there is the opportunity for that group to become an ongoing home study group. Meet once a month and then decide when the next program rolls around to sign up for that program and again become a weekly event. You can stay weekly. Some study groups meet twice a month, right? It's very, in that sense, over time, very fluid. But we want every single person, whether you're online or in person, to be part of a small group. It is really one of the ways you really get to practice and apply and mutually be supportive. So March, we're starting our Step Out in Faith. We're looking for hosts starting today. If you want to host online or in your home, please let Reverend Patty know. You can email her at revpatty@csldallas.org or speak to her. There is a link where you can sign up, so I'm hoping they're putting it into the chat for you. And then in 3 weeks, Patty will have organized all the groups, and then we'll open it up to everybody to sign up. Look for the day and the time that works for you, and then you sign up and you say, I want to be a part of that group. That's how you get into it. You can actually get a group of people together. Get 5 or 6 of your friends or people that you want to be, and 8 if you want to be together, and then let Patty know, hey, we want to be a group. And she'll put you together as a group. So that's how you get involved in a home study group. It is one of the ways, especially for people who are more online or mostly online. I would say 50 to 75% of our groups are online, right? Easily. So even in DFW, they're online. So it doesn't matter that you are, even geographically located together, although you can be, and it's really lovely when when groups do want to get together. So sign up to a home study group. The short answer, that was the long answer. The short answer is talk to Reverend Patty. That's the short answer. All right, we're going to say thank you to Patty, Reverend Patty. Yep. Thank you to Brianna and Lauren who pulled questions off the chat. Feel free, anytime that you want to send in some questions, you can send them to me or to info@csldallas.org, and we'll collect them because I have gotten a lot of requests that we do more Q&As. So thank you for your questions, and we just love being in community together, online and right here in person. All right, Michael, come on up here.